Hello everybody, it's Paul with reporting live from my sofa. How are you doing, Sofa Squad? It is a lovely day here in Camping World, and we are on day 8 of the Brendt Christensen trial. There has been more testimony and more testimony and more testimony. For those of you just joining this case, this is a federal case going on right now. There are no cameras allowed, so I'm just sitting here simply reviewing reporters' notes and making commentary on it. And without further ado, let's get going. So the family of Ying Zhang has been watching the past week of the Brendt Christensen's trial. It's her father, brother, and boyfriend in the main courtroom. And her mother is watching it from an overflow room because essentially the mother is so sensitive to this that the sight of the defendant puts her into an emotional wreck. Rightfully so, this poor woman. I mean, all of them, but the mother, I'm just like, that's absolutely awful that this family is having to sit here and listen to these things that happened. So, and that was a statement from the family's attorney, Steve Beckett. Now, throughout the trial, the family has sat quietly, not making much of a reaction, even to the recording of Christensen describing how he killed Miss Zhang in gruesome detail. And, I mean, I guess at a certain point, you just kind of have to put a look on your face and just go with it. And just be like, this is horrible, but we're going to get through it. And this is in quotes from their attorney. My impression of the family is that they have a real quiet dignity, and this makes sense. They're not educated, sophisticated people. They're from an agricultural region in Southeast China. But they are just really wonderful folks. And of course, what happened to their daughter is just a tragedy. I mean, y'all, the fact that this girl got all the way over here and was doing this. I mean, this was a very intelligent human being. This girl, was going places. I mean, I didn't know that about her. I didn't know that about them. So that's very interesting. Please hold. Beckett said he had told the family it was possible the defense could admit their client killed Miss Zhang, as they did in the opening statements. So, but in 46 years of practicing law, it's not something that you see, Beckett said. It clearly was different. I mean, this was right in the opening statements, it was, he killed her. So, do with that what you will. Because of the admission, Beckett expects a guilty verdict Monday, followed by the sentencing phase when the jury decides whether Christensen is sentenced to life in prison or the death penalty. And essentially, I think that was the direction they were going with this, was let's just admit the guilt. It's so obvious that he did this. There's so much evidence. It's silly to even try to get around that, if that makes sense. And Beckett said he was impressed with the cooperation between the different agencies investigating Miss Zhang's disappearance. What I found is how absolutely remarkable and well organized the cooperation between the University of Illinois Police Department, the FBI, the MTD, Beckett said. They took on this search and this investigation in a collaborative way that would make you proud. So that's awesome to hear, because a lot of times there's friction between these agencies. So it sounds like they all really came together and made this happen. So let's get into some of the updates on the trial. Yes, the defense made another motion for mistrial, which was denied, but an instruction to the jury will be made about the 13 victims claim being about Brendt Christensen's state of mind. So they've been calling for mistrials, and this is just the thing they do, y'all. That's all they can do is call for a mistrial, and they've been hung up on this 13 victims claim. Well, I look at it like, well, honey, he said it. You know what I'm saying? So, because they're like, oh, that could tarnish, he didn't, there's no evidence that he killed 13 people, just her. And I'm just like, well, that's fine, but all the other stuff he said is just as awful. You know what I mean? Like, okay, so he didn't kill 13 people, but listen to all the other horrid things that he has said about the victim and about how proud he is. That is enough. So the prosecution officially rested its case. The defense called its private investigator and an FBI agent to clarify, dispute some of what a jail cell informant said. So remember in the previous testimony, a jail cell, one of his friends in jail or whatever got up and kind of, testified to some of their conversations. Then Christensen's ex-wife, Michelle Zortman, testified. As she walked in, Christensen looked at her, unlike when his girlfriend walked in. So, very interesting. After starting dating in 2008, they got married in 2011 in Madison, Wisconsin, by a lawyer in a hotel with their parents and 4 friends. She said they spent their time together playing video games and watching TV. She's a private person, so, this not anymore. Asked if she was a fan of testifying, she said no. Wish you weren't here, very much. She discussed their marital problems starting in 2016 when his alcohol problems started getting worse. So this is giving some context here. Because I did wonder, like, okay, so she opened the marriage up, like what was going, was she just tired of it? That type thing. In December 2016, he drunkenly told her something that disturbed her and their marriage was never the same. Here we go, y'all, I spoke too soon. Let's get into it. In the spring of 2017, his drinking got worse. She suggested an open marriage and eventually divorce. He agreed to open marriage but convinced her to stay married, she said. So this is exactly, I mean, I'm getting all the answers that I've been curious about. So, I mean, she did not want to be with him at this point, y'all. I mean, he was just, you know, grabbing onto things. So he didn't want this open relationship. I mean, this was just something that he did. She said, when told that she wanted a divorce, Christensen was uncommonly emotional to the point of crying, she said, for the first time in their marriage. So, I mean, this obviously was very disturbing for him. She described being leery of Christensen when she returned from Wisconsin to back home, and the FBI agent showed up. She slept in a different room. So, I mean, this is very interesting. So what's interesting, too, is that she went through all this stuff. I mean, what did he do to convince her to stay in the marriage? Besides being like, well, have an open marriage. You know, I mean, I get that. But, I mean, she was this uncomfortable. And something that he said to her, whatever that was, and I'm so bad when I know what that is, that the marriage was never the same. I mean, he might have said something to the effect of, I have these fantasies or something like that. I don't know. Christensen showed her a blood stain on a mattress and claimed it was from a nosebleed. She saw him carry out a duffel bag June 12th, but didn't see it closely. Asked why she continues to be in contact with Christensen, despite knowing he killed Ms. Zong, Zortman said, he was the biggest person in my life for most of a decade. It's difficult to end ties like that. So that right there is telling me why she did the open marriage thing. You know, because she was, I mean, and that is, I mean, if you're, those of you in relationships and stuff, I mean, 10 years is long, 5 years even, you know, you get used to somebody. So I can see why, but I mean, at this point, I'm kind of like, girl. You know, because from what I understand, she's trying to help keep him off death row. And so maybe she's just an advocate of doesn't believe in that, you know, or whatever. So to each their own on that one. You know, in her situation, wanted to keep up with him. But I find that very interesting. Very interesting. Because this isn't like it's, I mean, you know, her son or something like that. I mean, really? You know, he literally killed this girl, drug your name to the mud. And the whole 9 yards, and you want to keep up with him? Okay, but hey, go for it. Part of a counseling center video from March 2017 was played Friday at the trial of Brendt Christensen. And in this video, and they just did some bullet points that we're going to review. Christensen said he went there because he had been abusing Vicodin and alcohol for years and because his wife wanted him to go to a counseling center. He talked about a severe accident when he was in his teens. He said he had a continuous supply of Vicodin for 2 or 3 months. But he said alcohol is the biggest problem, and his wife has told him to stop. Whenever I drink, it's a lot, he said. He said beer was easier to moderate, but he prefers rum because it's cheap. He estimated he'll have 15 to 20 drinks, but says he's only blacked out once. He said his wife doesn't like drinking at all. Christensen also said he's probably had depression since he was a teenager, but didn't seek help until 2 years prior. When he saw a psychiatrist and was prescribed antidepressants, it seemed to help. He was asked about his background and how he transferred to the University of Wisconsin at Madison and then got accepted to UIUC for physics. Literally the best school for that, or at least for his particular field. The tape was stopped there and will continue after lunch. This tape has been played before in parts by the prosecution, including toward the end when he talks about his interest in serial killers. The defense did not favor playing only specific parts of the tape and wanted the full context played. So that's what was done early. In one of the earlier videos, the defense was making a big stink about this, and so that this is the tape, and they wanted the whole thing played. Which again, I agree. Like, I want to hear the context too. I mean, so much stuff gets taken out of context. Now, mind you, this particular case here, it doesn't really matter in context or not. Like, guilty. You know what I'm saying? Like, he's not trying to hide that. But I don't know, I just like that. So, I mean, here we see this pattern, and we see this pattern a lot of times, and again, it's not an excuse to me, but I do think it's interesting of, first of all, some kind of accident. Maybe we had some kind of frontal lobe situation going on. Heavy drinker, drug abuse, and these things again, and I'm going to do a video on that, a specific video about that subject. Substance abuse, mental health, that type of stuff. Because just because these things are going on doesn't mean somebody is a killer or going to do things like this. And so I think that, of course, anything like this, we want to get into, we want to find out where is this coming from. But I also want to go, I view a lot of times substance abuse as just the top layer to what's going on beneath that. And it's what's going on beneath that layer that I'm very interested in seeing. Because it's almost like that's a symptom of something deeper going on. And that's why I'm just like, well, no, I mean, sure, there's a person that might go out and get drunk and get in a car and kill somebody, but a lot of people don't drink and do drugs and then go out and do some horrific thing like this. They just don't. It can maybe make for a continual state of mind, but I'm just curious, like, what's going on beneath the surface? Because to me, this is a lot of, like, trying to self-medicate and stuff. But again, it doesn't make any excuse for being a killer. And I think that the stigma attached to these things also plays into this, because it's just like, no, don't use this as an excuse, is what I'm getting at. Anyways, let's keep going. There's one more set of notes here, y'all. Okay, so I'm going to go over the remaining notes for the day on this. So as the case wrapped up, Brendt Christensen made his first statements at the trial, declining to testify. Now, y'all, we all wish he did. I mean, we know this. We wish he did. God knows it would have been interesting. But, y'all, I mean, this would not have been good for him. So Judge Shadid asked him if he understood his rights. Yes, he said. He was asked if he had any questions. No, he said. So you're not testifying, that's correct? Christensen said, that's correct. Asked if he was promised anything or threatened for not testifying. No, Christensen said. The decision is yours. Yes, he said. Asked again if he had any questions. Nope. So they're making sure you don't want to testify, you don't want this, because he'll be the type to come up. I wanted to say something, but I was scared too. The defense also made another motion for mistrial that was denied related to the 13th victims claim. I mean, y'all, that's literally all this defense seems to know to do is get up there and be like, mistrial, 13 victims, mistrial. The rest of the counseling center video was played, and in it, Christensen said he gets 2 to 5 hours of sleep. My God, help us all. They're going to do a video on sleep deprivation, too. Because God knows at this point in my life, y'all, I need all the sleep I can get. I don't know about y'all. He said he was in contact much with his family, telling counselors he doesn't have friends and spends all his time with his wife. And then she wants to leave you. So, I mean, you see how this is going. He talked about how he was interested in serial killers, particularly Ted Bundy. After he didn't get a PhD in physics, he realized he's probably not a genius. I do not see a path from where I'm in, he says at one point. Maybe it will appear one day. He said he didn't think he was a sociopath and said the risk with modern technology aren't worth it. I would not last in prison. He said he wouldn't want to live with the guilt. I mean, y'all, I don't think he has too much of an issue with it. And interesting that in the counseling sessions, he said something about technology, because I'm like, honey, you're all over it. I mean, for someone that brought this up, this is so interesting. For someone that made reference to this, I'm just like, dude, you are you kidding me? Like, that literally is what took you down. And you see where he feels like this whole, I'm not worthy, I'm not a good person because maybe I didn't get a PhD. His other comments about, I want to go down in history for something, and here you go. Okay, so let's continue. He returned to the counseling center 9 days later and repeated much of what he said, and more details, his lawyer said. The defense attorney Pollack asked FBI agent Andrew Huckstadt to clarify when Tara Bullis received her initial payment from the FBI. He said probably June 22nd of 2017 for $1,000 for her services. So, I mean, this is interesting. So she got paid to do this. And I'm not trying to say, I know in a lot of these cases, the defense or whoever always wants to bring that up. And in some situations, it can make a difference. But in this one, I mean, I'm like, wow, okay, I didn't know she got paid. Okay. But I'm not looking at it like, well, she made all this up. I mean, he's willingly told on himself. So they took a recess and the jury returned, and the Pollack said, the defense arrest. Y'all, the closing arguments in this are going to be really interesting because they kind of threw everybody for a loop saying he's guilty, he did it. So I'm so interested. I think that they're going to go for a path of life in prison, life in prison, life in prison. Kind of like they did in the Tim Jones Jr. trial, where that's all they could do is get up there and basically be like, please don't send him to the jail. I mean, that's really all at this point they have to say. And I mean, this guy is heinous. I mean, again, this is a heinous human being, y'all. So I mean, I don't know what else to say about it. So that's it. Thank you for joining the Sofa Squad today. There's a bunch of links in my description if you want to hang out with me on other social media. Join the Sofa Squad on Discord, on Patreon, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, you name it. You want to contact me for anything, it's all down there, y'all. Check it all out. Anyways, I hope y'all have a great day, week, weekend, whatever it is where this finds you, and I will talk to you soon.